7 News Source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Lowe's knows how to save pros time and money. Right now, get up to $1,500 off select major kitchen appliances because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 8/24 through 9/13. Exclusions apply while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. Today is the semifinal round in the women's bracket in the U.S. Open tennis tournament. Coco Gauff, the 19-year-old sister from Delray Beach, Florida, is making a strong run for her first Grand Slam title. Coco faces Karolina Muchova of the Czech Republic at 4 p.m. today in Arthur Ashe Stadium. The Rams made it official. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp will not play in their season opener Sunday at Seattle. Kupp is still trying to recover from a hamstring injury he suffered in training camp on August 1st. The Dodgers are 1-5 in September after losing by 7 last night in Miami. Dodgers pitcher Lance Lynn gave up 3 home runs in the 5th inning. Lynn has been tagged for 40 homers this season, tops in the major leagues. This is also a troubling time for Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias. Major League Baseball put him on administrative leave after his arrest Sunday for felony domestic violence. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
Apparently women doesn't rhyme with world. KBLA Talk 1580. Dominique DePrima here, and I'm so happy to be joined this morning by an advocate for justice and family. She is representing California's 37th Congressional District, which is a wildly diverse area within L.A. County. I'm talking about Congresswoman Sydney Kamlager-Dove. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good because I've been able to spend a lot of time in the district this month, and being here makes me far happier than dealing with the madness in Washington, D.C.
I'm sure it's a reminder of why you decided to do that daunting job.
It is, but it's incredibly fulfilling. I've been in L.A. for most of this month and went to visit a Planned Parenthood site, Post Row. I think it's incredibly important to see how they're faring. Went to a local vet center, hosted an immigration casework corner, and hundreds of folks showed up for that. Also toured a WIC facility and the LA Food Bank. WIC is actually a program that's on the chopping block by Republicans. If you can imagine, they think that new mothers only need $11 a month to feed their new babies, So it was important for me to visit that facility and hear what they're doing and how we can be supportive. And then last night hosted a healthcare town hall, the first in-person town hall that I've done since I've been in office. So it's been very fulfilling.
A busy time. I got to circle back to that WIC comment because I was not tracking that. I think you can get one diaper for $11.
It's crazy. So currently, mothers that are on the WIC program get $49 extra a month, which is not a lot, but it can help with, formula or equipment for breastfeeding, and dollars to go to the farmers markets to get fresh fruits and vegetables. And they partner with community farmers markets in the area. Republicans want to cut that $49 down to $11, essentially decimating the program and cutting off all of the other benefits that come to mothers who are in those WIC programs. So no one's talking about it, and it's an incredibly important issue, especially when you compound it with the fact that they also want to cut child care.
And the fact that they've already cut, the child tax credit, right? Which threw
Correct.
millions of American children back into hunger and poverty.
Correct. And are pushing the ag bill, punting that vote down the road because they don't want to deal with it. And that has incredible implications for, families that are dealing with food insecurity and young people who are, hungry. So it was very important for me learning more about these issues and talking about them so that I am well equipped when I go back to the jungle in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. How would that cut take place? Is it and it's something tacked on to another bill that will slide through? How will they eliminate or almost eliminate WIC?
Well, it could be pushed in some of the appropriations bills that we are taking up or we'll have to take up before October, which is when we end this federal fiscal year and then start another. The challenge is they have shown that they will tack some of these cuts onto things that have nothing to do with that particular issue.
Right.
So in the debt ceiling bill, for example, we saw permanent cuts in the climate justice space. That has absolutely nothing to do with stabilizing, debt and raising our debt ceiling. So my concern is that they will tack on some of these cuts to WIC, for example, add poison pills to some other bills that need to get passed. So we will have to watch. Now, of course, the other thing is a government shutdown.
Right. Yeah. That's where we were going next, because you talk about getting out of Washington. It feels like we're perpetually talking about a government shutdown, which I don't know why Americans don't punish Republicans for that at the ballot box, because you're not doing the business of the people when you're constantly playing chicken with a government shutdown.
Right. Well, so last night I hosted this town hall at Kedron. We had a great turnout. Lots of folks showed up, very engaged, and we talked about vaccines and COVID, right? There's a slight uptick. Well, we know during the last administration, COVID was politicized and access to vaccines were weaponized. We talked about, more money for federal qualified health centers. Many of the healthcare providers that we visit throughout South L.A. are federally qualified health centers that are entitled to federal funding, much of which they will see as a result of the Inflation Reduction Act, which tacked on a lot of money for healthcare providers. We talked about insulin being capped at $35. Now Medicare is able to negotiate drug prices. This is something that Canada and other countries have done for generations, which now we are finally going to be able to do. We also talked about the Momnibus bill, the Black maternal health Momnibus bill that needs to get passed in Congress, and what has happened at the state level. All of these things that I just mentioned are federal issues or federal programs. We talked about HICAP, which is a program you can actually call our office, or you can call HHS, and they will help you navigate how to get into Medicare for free. That is something that you might not be able to get if the government shuts down. Meanwhile, we have Republicans who are campaigning on shutting down the government. So I don't know how you win people's hearts and get votes when you're walking around saying, I want to run to be in government so that I can shut it down, so that if you have another hurricane, if there's another wildfire, if you need your mail delivered, if you're a veteran and you need benefits, you can't get any of those because my goal is to shut the government down. That's what people are saying, and it makes no sense to me.
Yep. Continuing our conversation with Congresswoman Kamlager-Dove, I do want to talk a little bit more when we come forward about the town hall meeting, what you're hoping is coming out of that as we look at these challenges, but also our little surge in COVID. And, more of what's going on in Washington and what we can do to make sure that things don't shut down. That's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you a small business owner? If so, you know that taxes can be a daunting task. But don't worry, you're not alone. At Wealth Management Financial Advisors, they specialize in helping small businesses with their taxes. They have the experience and expertise to help you file your taxes correctly and on time so you can focus on growing your business. They also offer a variety of tax planning services to help you save money on your taxes. Visit their website or call them today to learn more at wealthmanagementlb.com or 562-427-8877, 562-427-8877 or wealthmanagementlb.com.
She's so smooth, so... I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body
I'm
Lotion.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
All right, team. Apps on the table by 7:30 sharp.
Jalen and his catering company have a lot on their plate.
Really particular.
He needs a bigger team to continue climbing up the food chain.
Throughout this event. Hey, Mitch, was that a contract for 200 or 250 people?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates, and you can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
We're talking with Congresswoman Sydney Kamlager-Dove coming off of an in-person town hall meeting on last evening, and continuing that kind of a tradition in this district, the 37th, of having those kinds of town hall meetings. What are you hoping will come out of this? And of course, how can we keep track of them and make sure we're invited to the next one?
Well, the best way to stay involved is to just call my office, 323-965-1422. We can connect you to my website, which is Kamlager-Dove /gov, where you can sign on or sign up to get email notifications to you via text, because that's how we're trying to communicate with our constituents. I left the town hall incredibly energized because I got to answer questions and share information about what's happening now and what could potentially happen when we go back next week. And it's a way for me to share with constituents what they can do. So it's incredibly important regardless of your immigration status, if you need health care, that you are making sure that you get it. And we have worked really hard at the state level to make that a possibility. And we're also finding ways at the federal level through certain programs like WIC to make sure that you have access to the services that you need. It's also really important for me to hear stories because I take those back to Washington, D.C., and I tell my Democratic colleagues and my Republican colleagues. And what we need to do is de-weaponize many of these programs and services that should be available to everyone that Republicans, quite frankly, want to get rid of because they think it makes them a bigger celebrity in their hometown because they are not educating their constituents about how they, too, will be hurt if these programs are cut.
Yeah, that's the tragedy of it. It's, but that classic thing about voting against our own interests. Yeah, sign up for the town hall, sign up for the texts, and we're going to stay in the mix about what is happening and what's working, which I think is super important in these daunting times. You talk about local progress and things we can do here. Meanwhile, we look to Washington, and it appears quite toxic and quite dysfunctional. How are you feeling about this? The showdown about a government shutdown.
Yeah, the showdown is such a good word. Sometimes I'm embarrassed, that I work with to work in a bipartisan fashion, keep the government open.
We're losing Congresswoman Kamlager, and I guess that's on the cell phone. But talking about what we have in store for us, coming out of the summer recess, coming out into this October deadline that the Congresswoman mentioned for a government shutdown. So I think we have the Congresswoman back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was sharing that the Senate is showing us that they know how to be adults and work in a bipartisan fashion to pass appropriation bills so that we can keep the government open. But the House is intent on burning the House down. And oftentimes I'm incredibly embarrassed to say I work with these folks because sometimes it seems like they're white men acting like little children and who don't want to do what's best for the country. And I say that because this is also the same group that seems to be, supporting, the last president who's now been indicted, I think with like 91 charges in 4 jurisdictions across the country, to be the nominee for the Republican Party to run to be president again. So if you're behind that guy, then of course it makes sense that you don't care about the government and you don't care about the hundreds of millions of folks that live in this country who need access to health care, who need access to abortion care, who need an education system that's working for their kids, who needs child care, who needs senior care, who needs benefits for military veterans and their families. I mean, these are all of the things that have been on the chopping block or are on the chopping block. That's what government does at the federal level.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's September right now. October is next month, and so as you said, the Senate is figured out how to, govern like grown-ups, but the House doesn't. What could we be looking at right now?
Well, unfortunately, this House Freedom Caucus, this group of fascists, in my mind, have actually threatened the Speaker. And they have said, if you try to keep the government open, we're going to kick you out as Speaker. Now, to me, that makes no sense because I don't think they have someone to replace that person. And so I think they're just jerking his chain as often as they can, and they want him to fail. If he fails, then we fail, because if the House can't do anything because the majority of the people in the House don't want to work, it complicates our ability to be adults and help pass things and keep the government open. Now, I believe that Speaker McCarthy is going to quietly start talking with Democrats so that he can get the votes he needs to keep the government open. And so that will be our opportunity to negotiate on things like WIC, on things like SNAP, on things like child care, on things like elder care, on things like housing, to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do to keep the government open, to keep workers employed, and to keep our economy going.
Yeah, you started to say, talking about some of the accomplishments, right, that Democrats have made. And I think that's really important because we get caught up in the crisis conversations. We get very captivated by the 91 charges against the former president. It is pretty fascinating watching, his former accomplices turning on him and each other. And but yet, I think one of the things we constantly hear is that Biden's approval ratings are very low. And I find that somewhat puzzling considering the accomplishments of the administration. What do you make of that, and what do you think we need to be talking more about in terms of effective wins for Democrats?
Mm-hmm. I certainly think we are addicted to reality TV, and some people like the drama that comes with politics. I think what we've also learned is that can be incredibly distracting and also destabilizing. And so I hope that folks just focus on the work. And there have been tremendous achievements made. I mean, $35 cap on insulin is something we should be talking about every day. I remember going to town halls and listening to seniors say, the drug costs are too high. I'm spending almost $300 for one pill. Well, under Biden, with Democrats last year, a lot of that will be changing. Having Medicare be able to negotiate drug prices for drugs, for diabetes, hypertension, cancer. I mean, that's amazing. I can't tell you how many town halls I've been to where we've talked about, socialized medicine and health care in other countries, and how come we can't be more like them? They seem to be incredibly progressive. Well, we're showing that we want to be, just by having Medicare be able to negotiate prices and keep those costs down. The fact that we have almost $400 billion going into communities across this country to help with climate change, if that's through transportation, if that's through greening healthcare facilities and hospitals, if that's through grants to coastal communities to help them with their resiliency against climate change, if it's about more jobs, more union jobs, and how we are upgrading and refreshing our infrastructure, all of that is going to happen or is happening now because of what Biden and Democrats did. And these accomplishments are historic and they're once in a generation. The last time we had anything major was when Obama was able to pass ACA. That was a long time ago. And so here we are in a moment where we've created 4 million jobs. We've gained all the jobs that were lost during COVID. We have figured out a way to manage COVID. It's not gone, but it's certainly become more manageable and destigmatized. And we are working feverishly to upgrade our infrastructure, if it's broadband, if it's brick and mortar, if it's through transportation and transit. And so we have to keep talking about this because those are the things that people in my district care about. They say, hey, the cost of living is high.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to be able to buy a home. Hey, I want to make sure that my child is going to be safe at school. These are things we're working on. Biden also was able to pass a Community Safety Act to tackle some elements of gun violence. Do we need to do more? Yes. But we were actually able to get something passed through Biden. So these are things we have to talk about and remind people who say, I don't want to vote, I don't like any of these folks who are running, or I don't care, he's not exciting. I'm not interested in excitement. I want no drama, but I want people employed, and I want people safe, and I want people healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't mind excitement. I'd rather have like health care and, children not starving. But the question of age has become a huge thing in all of government now, between Biden, Trump, Senator Feinstein, Mitch McConnell, and to me, it's really not age; it's health.
100%. I came in. I think this class is the youngest class of congressmen and women that have come to Washington, D.C., so I'm excited to be part of this cohort. And it's not about age. People keep asking me, well, what do you think is the right age? I mean, should people retire? So I don't have the answer to that because, every person is different. I am interested in, people who are healthy, sane, lucid, and able to do the work. And we should be having real discussions about what that looks like. Because ultimately, when you're there, you are a voice, you are a representative for your people, and folks need to know that you can get up every day and do that job.
Yeah, I think that's right. I know that if I even something less critical to the future of the so-called free world, doing radio, if I show up and I can't talk, no matter how much Tavis loves me, I'm going to have to find another occupation. So I think reframing away from just age, which gets to ageism, and looking at competence or ability is I hope where we're going with this. Congresswoman, I really appreciate you taking time out to be with us. I couldn't let you go today without asking you what happened with your hip hop bill, your hip hop turns 50 bill.
Yes. So we're having a hip hop press conference on September 13th, and we're bringing some special guests out for that. And then there's going to be a roundtable discussion at Congress on the 50th anniversary. I am still waiting for it to come to the floor. I'm going to try to see if there are any courageous Republicans who are willing to acknowledge that they listen to hip hop and support, what it's about. But I'll go forward even without them. But using this opportunity to talk about, this Black music and how it has, become mainstream, but has proven its resiliency. Still more work to do with hip-hop. There's some homophobia and misogyny still in there. But, the fact that it was a genre that people had counted out and said, this is music made by unsophisticated Black folks, I think hip-hop has proven those naysayers wrong.
Yeah, I think so, too. And I mean, if we talk about work to do with misogyny and homophobia, we can talk about Hollywood films, television. We can talk about Congress. I do think it's good to hold hip-hop accountable. I think I'm known for that. But I think the same rules need to apply to all cultural and political, genres in this country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, nothing should be singled out because there's work for all of us to do, and there's growth that needs to happen everywhere.
Yep. Tell us once again how to get on your mailing list, get into the town halls, and track and support the work that you're doing in Washington in tough times.
What I'm going to do is just call the office at 323-965-1422. Or you can go to my website, Kamlager-Dove.gov, hoping folks want to stay engaged and would love to come back next time and just kind of talk about what's happening in the international space. We didn't talk a lot about Trump and all his drama, but one of the things he did was neglected Africa. And there's so many challenges that are happening now on that continent that really deserve our attention, especially given how many African community members we have here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I would love to have that conversation and look forward to it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Congresswoman Kamlager-Dove.
Thank you so much.
The mayor is in the building. Mayor Karen Bass will join me next. Mornings with the Mayor, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The U.S. House Judiciary Committee wants Fulton County, Georgia District Attorney African-American Fonnie Willis to turn over a raft of documents and records this morning. Republican Committee Chairman Jim Jordan of Ohio sent Willis a letter late last month demanding records and documents related to any communication with federal officials concerning her investigation of former President Donald Trump and his allies. The calendar says summer is almost over, but the weather didn't get the memo. The National Weather Service expects scorching temperatures to keep impacting millions through Friday in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast and through the weekend in and around Texas. Miserably hot weather will also return to the desert Southwest, where Phoenix will be under an excessive heat warning. And that's the latest. I'm Mark Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Lowe's knows how to save pros time and money. Right now, get up to $1,500 off select major kitchen appliances because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 8/24 through 9/13. Exclusions apply while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. Today is the semifinal round in the women's bracket in the U.S. Open tennis tournament. Coco Gauff, the 19-year-old sister from Delray Beach, Florida, is making a strong run for her first Grand Slam title. Coco faces Karolina Muchova of the Czech Republic at 4 p.m. today in Arthur Ashe Stadium. The Rams made it official. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp will not play in their season opener Sunday at Seattle. Kupp is still trying to recover from a hamstring injury he suffered in training camp on August 1st. The Dodgers are 1-5 in September after losing by 7 last night in Miami. Dodgers pitcher Lance Lynn gave up 3 home runs in the 5th inning. Lynn has been tagged for 40 homers this season, tops in the major leagues. This is also a troubling time for Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias. Major League Baseball put him on administrative leave after his arrest Sunday for felony domestic violence. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Dominique DePrima, KBLA Talk 1580. One of the most important details of running a business is managing cash flow. In fact, it's key to maintaining your company's health. Putting cash flow management before profits using dedicated software can help you drill down to the details that let you see the bigger picture. Having that clearer outlook makes for a stronger business. Whatever your business's financial goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Initiatives can help support you in reaching them. Access your financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You're ready to level up to your next home or your first home. But maybe you still have some questions. Come check out Rocket. We're ready to help. Start with a Rocket Mortgage home buying plan and get Rocket rewards along the way for cash toward closing. You got this, and Rocket's got you. Only with Rocket. Visit RocketBuyingPlan.com to get started today.
Call 866-357-5727 for conditions and restrictions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLS Consumer Access. Number 3030.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like choosing Derek Jeter as the pinch hitter for your baseball team.
Jeter, you're in. We need a home run.
I'll give it a try. I've swung a bat once or twice.
That's out of here.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
You can do it all by yourself, baby girl. What's your name? Let me talk to you. Let me buy you a drink.
Spilled your drink? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand. So you can get back to your night. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Extreme heat can make you very sick and can be deadly. For Californians 65 and over, it's important to have a plan. Ask your healthcare provider if your medications affect your ability to cool down. Know the signs of heat illness and stroke, as well as the location of your nearest cooling center or air-conditioned space. And if you have loved ones over 65, Be sure to check in on them on hot days. Learn how to stay safer from extreme heat at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
And it is Mornings with the Mayor around here. The Mayor is joining us. If you want to see us, we're on KBLA 1580 on Instagram. She is a longtime Angelino, former healthcare worker, founder of the Community Coalition, now the mayor of the city of Los Angeles. I forgot Congress and the Assembly and a whole bunch of stuff. Good morning, Mayor Karen Bass.
Good morning, Dominique. It's always great to be with you.
Yeah, I'm over here rushing the introduction because I want to try to get everything in while we can.
Fine with me.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I thought of a weird random question, though. You know, I know that you're an avid fitness enthusiast. People don't know that. You don't, do those fluff interviews. But are you able to keep up? Are you able to keep working out? You're pretty hardcore about your workouts.
Not to the extent as I would like, but I am still riding my bike and swimming.
Okay, Mayor's team. we need her to stay healthy and stay well. So, of course, we're going to start right in with the unhoused.
Yes.
Because that continues to be one of the top issues. And it's always confusing because we're dealing with city, county, state, and federal.
That's right.
And you're trying to work all of these levels at once.
That's right. But you know what? The good news is that we have been working exactly like that. So we have an alignment of government, and that was one of my goals. I thought it was going to take a while to achieve, but the minute President Biden did his announcement in December that he wanted to reduce homelessness by 25%, and we jumped on that, went to the White House right away and competed, and we were selected as one of 5 cities in the country where the president, the White House, the administration is going to focus on, and they have absolutely delivered. They've delivered money. We could always use more, but, close to $300 million, as well as flexibility in some regulations, and that was actually harder to do than the money. So just yesterday, we had Tom Perez here, who is the special senior advisor to the president, and he also is the one who is responsible for being in touch with local government. So he was here. I gave him the tour that I give everyone. But, when we go through Skid Row, it's just a heartbreak because, Skid Row is overwhelmingly us. It's overwhelmingly African American. And we're 8% of the population, 30% of the people unhoused. And on Skid Row, we're probably 90%. I don't know if that's true, but it looks that way when you drive through.
Right, to the eye. So, the stereotype is that there's a persistent number of unhoused people that don't want to be housed. I've heard you say that the Safer Inside program is debunking that because people are taking the offers, but then we see people back out on the streets. Are you discouraged by that?
No.
Is that overreported?
No, not at all. First of all, it is absolutely a myth that people want to live like that. They do not. And when we've gone out, it is a rare time when somebody says no. As a matter of fact, sometimes they say no in the beginning, and then when the bus comes, they try to, they get on the bus. We've actually had the opposite problem. When we go to encampments now, we do outreach 2 to 3 days ahead of time. We count the number of motel rooms we need. And then on move-out day, 10 extra people show up. So we're finding that the unhoused are literally calling each other and coming. Now, we definitely have had people leave the motels, but I would attribute that to the lack of services that they're receiving in the motels. And we are learning an awful lot. The community-based organizations we're working with, we have stretched way beyond capacity. And so now we're trying to increase their capacity to provide services. They have never been in a position to house and manage the numbers that we have been producing over the last 9 months.
Yeah, well, lucky that you come from a community-based organization that actually specializes in helping people increase their capacity.
Right. And and I do not fault the organizations at all. It's my job to help them do, what they're doing. So the way it works is that, the mayor's staff goes out and does the outreach along with the county staff as well, and sometimes the community-based organizations. But once the people move into the motel, the community-based organizations take over.
The services.
Take over the services and providing meals, because it's not like they order room service. So there's 3 meals a day that need to be provided. And we're in 39 motels. We have over 1,500 people in them. So our community-based organizations have never worked with that kind of volume. So it's my job to find the resources to help them do that. And of course, I completely empathize with them, having run a community-based organization, like you said. I understand when a government or somebody else says, well, do it this way, and places new demands, but doesn't match the dollars.
Exactly. Fix this, no budget, though.
Right, exactly.
Talk to me about the Mayfair Hotel, because that's been in the news and become controversial. I think most everything is controversial in L.A., but because it's a hotel that I guess was rented under not Safer Inside, under Room Key. And then now you're trying to buy it.
We bought it.
You bought it. City Council approved that. It's done already?
Closed escrow. Yes.
Wow.
So the thing is that the strategy we're using right now with motels is financially not sustainable long term.
Right.
So the problem in Los Angeles that's different than New York. New York's many, many years ago invested in purchasing and master leasing of hotels for interim housing. L.A. did not make that investment. And so basically in L.A., we've left people on the streets until permanent housing was available. I don't think people should be on the streets. I don't think anybody should live that way in the nation's second largest city.
Right.
So while we're building housing, and housing is being built, I'm going to ribbon cuttings a couple of times a week. We want to have people be in a place while permanent housing is being built. So now we're shifting over to making purchases, and that will significantly reduce the rates. Now, the neighborhood was upset because they have bad memories from Project Room Key, but Project Room Key was the strategy that was used during the pandemic when none of us knew what we were dealing with. And basically, City Council rushed and established contracts with a lot of motels, placed people in them. But again, everybody was quarantining away. So the community-based organizations definitely didn't have the capacity during those times. So the neighborhoods are left with bad memories. And what we have to do is do the organizing and involvement with the councilwoman, Councilwoman Hernandez, working with the residents to show them this is not going to be what happened a few years ago.
Because there'll be more supportive services. And
the whole first floor is going to be dedicated to 24 hours a day services. Yes.
Right. And of course, we hear the complaint constantly that we're paying too much for the Mayfair, and we already paid money to repair the damage that we did under Project Room Key, but we don't get credit for that. But I wonder, I'm assuming your calculus is based on the idea that these hotels, when we don't buy them, are even more expensive.
Well, exactly. But the other thing is that just think of how much money it costs to leave people on the streets. I mean, first and foremost, let's talk about the 4 to 5 people that die every day because they're on the streets. So you're going to talk about the quality of life, police calls, emergency room visits, all that happens when you leave people to die on the streets. You measure that and you compare that to what it costs to put people in motels or to buy hotels. This is a long-term investment we're making with the reality that it's going to take us a lot of years to get out of this. The situation on our streets today was 30 years in the making. I would love to have a magic wand and just solve the crisis in 1 year.
Same.
But it's going to take a while.
Yeah. Do you think you're on track? You feel like you're on track right now?
I do. But you know what? The biggest issue is how to get to scale.
Right.
I mean, I see the pathway to solve this problem.
Right.
But 46,000 people, that's bigger than most cities.
Yeah.
And then if you're talking about the county, you're talking about 70,000 people.
Right. And as we've discussed before, you've got people falling into houselessness even as we pull folks out.
Can I talk about that for a minute? I inherited 2 organizations becoming mayor, and one of them was the Mayor's Fund. Garcetti brilliantly used it during COVID to provide resources for low-income people. I'm changing it now to focus on preventing homelessness. So we're funding small nonprofits to do grassroots outreach because there are probably about 30,000 people today facing eviction.
Wow.
And so one of the reasons why voters and Angelenos were frustrated with voting for propositions, housing that took too long to be built, but not understanding that for every 200 people that are taking off the street, 230 more fall into homelessness. We have to deal with this comprehensively, and we have to prevent people from falling into homelessness.
Yep, that's right. I commend the work you're doing, and it seems daunting to get to scale, like you said, when you hear, 1,500, that's great.
Yes.
45,000 to go.
In the bucket.
Right. We'll talk about how we can help make that happen. Also want to discuss public safety. I started out talking about that today. We've got the mayor here, so we'll get some updates on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up. My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency, all over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
KBLA Talk 1580. The mayor is in the building. Appreciate, Madam Mayor, your commitment to doing Mornings with the Mayor monthly and supporting Black-owned media. A lot of folks forget about that when they get in office. You never have.
No, absolutely not. And I've been doing your show for some more years than I can remember.
I know. In fact, you were the one that influenced me to do the front page when I was thinking of doing something else. I do want to ask you about, the police LAPD contract. A lot of progressives felt like that
Why did she do that?
Yeah, why did she do that? It's huge. I mean, it's a lot of money and a huge raise for police. Not on the defund the police page.
I understand.
Not on the get revenge because they spent $4 million to keep you from getting the job, but just on the, wow, that's a lot of our budget, and they already take up such a huge chunk of the city budget. We need houseless help. We need mental health services.
That's right. Well, let me just tell you, too, that let me take a step back for a minute and then speak directly about that. We're going through a time period in our city where people are struggling to be able to live and work in the same city. And so you saw it with the school district. You saw it with the teachers. You saw it with the classified employees. You're seeing it with the entertainment industry, the hotel workers, and the city workers as well. So we're in the middle now of negotiating 21 contracts for all of the city employees, and everybody is requesting a big raise. The problem that we are having with the police department is that we're losing officers, and for the first time in about 20 years, we have dipped below 9,000 officers. What is happening is that recruits go through the training, and then they get picked up by other departments, and other departments are picking off our officers. So I was worried about the challenges of recruitment, and that is a national issue. Cities all over the country are having difficulty recruiting. We're competing in the state. So we offered, for example, a $15,000 signing bonus. Alameda County offers a $75,000 signing bonus. So for us to be competitive, we had to provide a raise. The other thing that we provided was a bonus for officers that have been there for a long time, because our officers are being encouraged to leave the department after they've been there 10 or 20 years, go to another department. And so we needed a bonus to keep them there. So yes, it is a lot of money. It received a lot of attention because it's the first contract that we've done, but now we're dealing with 21 others, and we have to lift the salaries of city workers all across the board.
Yeah, I think it also got a lot of attention because there has been conversation about a care first model where we don't put all of our money into suppression.
Exactly.
And where we invest more in other things that make people safe.
That's right. And so that's why I started the Office of Community Safety and appointed a deputy mayor, Karen Lane, who I hope comes on and does your show to talk about exactly what we're doing there. Because you know me, I believe in preventing crime and looking at the root causes. But you know what? We have to do both. LA City budget is $13 billion. I don't believe that there's any reason why we cannot do both. And the other thing that happens is that when we first started negotiating the contract, crime was going down. And now we're in our summer months or ending our summer months. And what traditionally happens during those months is that you have a spike, which is exactly what we have happening with the smash and grabs and the other, crimes that have been taking place that are a lot of publicity attached to them.
But even with the smash and grabs, I mean, that's where we started this morning a lot. I was even kind of making fun of a special task force because, I mean, those are sensational crimes that the media likes to report on over and over again.
That's
But if you look at the data, our overall crime is still down.
But you know what, though, Dominique? And this is it's a tough issue. But crime, to me, is a very subjective issue.
Right.
And when people start talking about data, and you were in that store when folks rushed in, I look at the economic consequences of that, because there are people that work in those stores. And then people say, well, I'm not going to go shopping anymore because anything in that store I can get online. It does have an economic impact.
Mm-hmm.
But just like back in the days of Community Coalition, there's always a lot of actors when it comes to crime. So what concerns me about the smash and grab is who's buying these products. They're not selling Gucci bags on Crenshaw.
No.
They're selling those products online to high-end people that buy them at a discount, but they're paying big money. So we need to look at the online people who are profiting on these crimes, who never have any attention or consequences at all for fencing. And fencing in the 21st century is done online. I think they should be held accountable as well.
Yeah, it's a good point for me in the sense that those kind of task forces and hysterical news reports seem to place property over people. Mm-hmm. But when you think about the jobs aspect, there at least is a people aspect to it.
Right. Absolutely. And so the problem is that when the press does that, it really does shape public sentiment.
Yep, absolutely.
And fear comes back. And then everybody wants 3 strikes back, and everybody wants this,
Lock
and they want that. So we have to stop these things. We can't let these things get out of control, or all of the reforms and things we've worked on will be reversed.
Talk to me about the new head of the police commission, Errol Southers. For me, that was also a whoa, okay. And I've heard this conversation from other progressives because he's former FBI. It seems like a movement towards more police surveillance, more suppression, and away from a care first.
Yeah, you know what? I
model.
don't think so. I've known Dr. Southers for a long time. And one of the reasons why I recommended him is that he was one of the national leaders on police reform and accountability that I worked with when I was doing the George Floyd bill nationally. So because he had that profession, he has the ear of law enforcement, but he is very much committed to accountability and transparency. And to me, those are fundamental pillars of reform.
Right. I mean, I know how hard you worked on police reform, and I'm sure you're happy to not be where Congresswoman Kamlager is trying to work on it still. How do you think that's going for our city, though?
Wow, what reform is going for our city?
Yeah, it's sort of our commitment to doing policing differently.
Well, to me, a comprehensive approach is what is required. I think that traditional policing and public safety and the police commission is one area, but it's not the only area. The area that I really want to focus on and build up is the community safety work that Deputy Mayor Lane is doing. So one of the things that we're going to be launching soon, and I would love her to come on and talk about it before it's launched, is we're going to do a citywide survey, polling, and community meetings so that we can have an entire city perspective on what do Angelenos want in order to feel safe, and what do they want to see from law enforcement, what kind of community programs do they want to see. We know there's differences.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a position where I'm not just representing a geographic area. Now I'm representing the entire city.
Right.
And people look at things differently in different neighborhoods.
Yeah, and so what you've talked about is customizing a law enforcement or public safety, community safety approach for different neighborhoods.
I mean, if you look at more affluent areas, they can purchase the services and programs that cannot be purchased in lower income areas.
Right.
We need public support in our communities. You don't necessarily need that in affluent areas. They can pay for all the after-school programs and all of that.
Just got a couple minutes left here. What do you want us to know? What are we missing as Black Angelenos, as progressive Angelenos that's going on in the Bass administration?
Well, one is hiring. I think it's important that people should know that there are a lot of vacancies in the city, and those are good paying union jobs with pensions and benefits, 900 vacancies in sanitation, 300 vacancies in street services, 8,000 vacancies citywide. So I would like for Angelenos to know that. And then, I want us to be conscious of who's in those tents. I don't want us to just drive by and not realize that this is a problem that is Black and brown. 44% of the unhoused are Latino, 30 plus are African American. This is our problem. And I'm worried that there's actually a Supreme Court decision that could lead to a real push around suppression of the unhoused if they undo the legal decision that says you cannot force people off the streets. And by the way, what we're doing is not forcing people off the streets, but I think it is so wrong to say that people should wait on the streets while housing is being built. And for some people to think that that's freedom, I think is really sad.
Yeah, I mean, it is sad because even if they are allowed to stay on the streets or left, abandoned on the streets, they're still going to face criminalization.
Well, right, but who wants people on the street? That's the thing that obviously I don't want people criminalized, but I do not think it's okay for our people to be on the street.
Yeah, especially when you look at that report that was recently on the front page of the LA Times about how it's the elderly that are ending up on the street.
Yes. And by the way, the reason why, and you know that disproportionately impacts us. If you worked in the service economy, if you weren't a city employee and didn't have a pension or benefits, when you're in your 60s, you age out of the workforce and you have nothing. So is that what we want for our community? We're 8% of the population. I think all of us should be very concerned about our numbers dying on the street.
Mayor Karen Bass, thank you so much for coming in. It's a pleasure to talk with you. I'll look forward to speaking with you again next month.
Always enjoy talking to you.
Yes, and I'll look forward to talking to Deputy Mayor Karen Lane as well.
Okay.
Tavis Smiley is up next. History's Now, and we are making it together. I'm Dominique DePrima. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The U.S. House Judiciary Committee wants Fulton County, Georgia District Attorney African-American Fonnie Willis to turn over a raft of documents and records this morning. Republican Committee Chairman Jim Jordan of Ohio sent Willis a letter late last month demanding records and documents related to any communication with federal officials concerning her investigation of former President Donald Trump and his allies. The calendar says summer is almost over, but the weather didn't get the memo. The National Weather Service expects scorching temperatures to keep impacting millions through Friday in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast and through the weekend in and around Texas. Miserably hot weather will also return to the desert Southwest, where Phoenix will be under an excessive heat warning.
Lowe's knows how to save pros